Remember, you need repetition and novelty. After a while, if you're listening to the same thing over and over again, the brain is picking up less and less and less. Hi there, Steve Kaufman here. Today I want to talk about listening skills. Listening skills, how to get better at listening, how to use listening to learn a language. Remember, if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe, click on the bell for notifications. So, as you know, I consider input, listening and reading, to be the keys to learning a language. You have to get the language into you. It has to come from outside. You have to get your brain used to a new language. This is best achieved through listening and reading. Reading helps you acquire more words, but listening gets your brain used to the language. And of course, listening comprehension is a tremendously important skill, because if you're speaking to someone, and we all want to speak in the language, if you can't understand what they're saying, what the other person is saying, then it's very uncomfortable and you can't have a very meaningful conversation. So how do you use listening to get better in the language? And what are the tips to get better at listening? First of all, it depends on each person, but I cannot sit down and just listen. If I were to sit, and I've tried it, so I have whatever lesson I'm listening to, and I sit down in a comfortable chair, and I say I'm going to spend half an hour listening to this podcast or whatever it might be. I'm incapable of doing that. My mind wanders, so I can't concentrate. If I have dedicated study time, then I'm going to read, or I'm going to work on my iPad with Link. So where does the listening come in? Listening has the tremendous advantage that we can do it wherever we are. I don't have my AirPods handy, but I have my AirPods, and I recently bought a new kind of AirPod that sits outside the ear, and they work really well. I went jogging yesterday, and I could hear very well, and I don't have these things actually plugged into my ear. But I can listen first thing in the morning. I'll get up, I have a little 7-minute exercise routine. I listen. I make breakfast, I listen. If I exercise during the day, I listen. If I'm in the car, I listen. So you've got all this time to listen. All right. So then people say, well, when you're listening, do you always focus? All right. It is impossible to 100% focus while listening. You have to, like so much in language learning, you have to accept imperfection. So when you speak, you're going to make mistakes. When you listen, there's going to be lots of areas you don't understand. There are also going to be moments when you are not focused on what you're listening to. You lose track. Your mind wanders off somewhere else. That's fine. As long as you come back, and so let's say for a period of 30 minutes that I'm in the car listening to something, maybe I'm only focused on what I'm listening to for half that time, or I don't know what the number is because I don't worry about it, but I know it's not 100% of the time. But for whatever percentage of the time I'm listening, I'm exposing my brain to the language, and I am getting used to the language. Now, one of the things that's very important is you cannot continue to listen to your target language and not understand anything, or only understand 5%. That is very inefficient in my experience. So if I listen to something, obviously at the early stages in a language, I don't understand anything. But then I will read it. I will look up the words. I'll review them in Link. Read it again. Then I'll listen. And I still don't understand. Even though I understood kind of when I was reading and looking up words, when I go to listen, I don't understand. But that doesn't bother me. I know that from personal experience that in time, what initially is just noise for me, by a process of reading and listening and going back and reading again and looking up words again and listening again, eventually more and more of this becomes comprehensible. Don't listen to the same lesson over and over and over again at one sitting. In other words, the brain, as I've said many times, requires repetition and novelty. So you can listen to an item a few times, then move on to the next item, even if you don't fully understand the first. So you have lesson 1, and you listen and you listen and you read it, then you listen again and you understand 20-30%. Move on to the next one. Don't try to master any particular lesson or content item. It's all exposure. It's all helping the brain get used to the language. Remember, you need repetition and novelty. After a while, if you're listening to the same thing over and over again, the brain is picking up less and less and less. So you have to move to the next lesson and to the next lesson. So keep pushing yourself forward. Maintain that balance between repetition and novelty. And there's all kinds of research into how the brain learns, that sort of block learning, that third, fourth, fifth time we read something or we listen to something, we are in fact learning less and less. So you have to keep moving forward. Now, so don't worry about losing focus. Don't worry about what you don't understand. Keep challenging or rewarding your brain with new material, but do have enough repetition so that you start to notice certain things that you didn't notice the first time. And this is the next point about listening. I can listen to a mini story that I've listened to 30, 40 times before, so I know the mini story. And yet I will suddenly notice a structure, a verb pattern, verb form that I hadn't really noticed before, even though I knew the rule vaguely. But the 31st time that I listen to that, I notice it in a different way. So give yourself a chance to notice things when you go back for that additional pass through the same material. So you're maintaining that repetition and novelty, but when you're in your repetition activity, allow yourself to notice certain things. You don't have to notice everything. You can lose focus, but there will be times when you notice certain things in there that will help you in your gradual acquisition of the language. And remember that listening comprehension here is the goal. It's not going to be perfect, but it will gradually improve. And the better your listening comprehension, the better your ability to have conversations. But again, give yourself, a variety between repetitious material, and new challenging material. Combine reading with listening. Try to focus in on certain aspects of pronunciation that you maybe didn't notice before. Be aware that some of the things that you didn't notice on the first time listening, or the second or the fifth or the 10th time, you may notice the 20th time you listen. So the process of acquisition of a language is gradual. So if you listen and you don't understand, don't get frustrated. If you listen and read and listen and read and still don't understand, don't get frustrated. That's normal. And at least in my own case, I prefer to be listening and doing something else, cleaning up the garage, whatever it might be, listening, fading out, focusing in again. That works better for me than trying to sit down and say, okay, for the next half hour, I'm going to listen to this, all right? The exception to that, of course, is if you're watching a movie, which is a form of listening, but you're watching and listening at the same time. And it's rewarding because it's fun to watch a movie, and you can see the people. You can almost feel as if you're participating with this family. That's why series, on Netflix are so great. If it's the same group of people interacting all the time in the series, and you watch them and you feel you're a part of them, and you're getting that sense of being in that cultural, sphere, all of that is good. But I wouldn't, I consider the sort of video, movies, TV series, that's more of a reward. That's fun. You have to develop the ability to be able to listen without seeing what's going on. Initially, sort of repetitious material like the mini stories, eventually audiobooks, where just hearing the words conjures up meaning for you, so that you're automatically converting, words in the target language into meaning. And so as you build up to that level of listening comprehension, you are preparing yourself to become fluent in the language. So that's my advice. Treat listening and listening comprehension not only as a primary goal in language learning, but as an important way of helping your brain become accustomed to the language. So I hope that was helpful. Thank you for listening. Remember, you need repetition and
皆さんこんにちは。最近多くの方から 何々が好きと何々のことが好きの違いについて教えてほしいとリクエストをいただいていました。実は3年前にこの点について少しだけお話ししたことがあるんですね。それが何々が好きと何々を好きの違いというテーマの動画でした。この際は A さんが好きな人は B さんだのようにが動作の主体を表すのか好きの対象を表すのか分かりにくい文においてはのことが好きを使った方がいいよという話をしたんですね。この場合がを使うとほとんどの人は動作の主体だと認識するのに対してのことがを使うとほとんどの人が後者の好きの対象として解釈するんですね。その際のことについては対象が人の時にしか使えないということだけお話をしたんですが、それ以上のニュアンスについては説明をしていませんでした。そこで今回は何々が好きと何々のことが好きについてもう少し掘り下げて違いをお話ししていきたいと思います。まず結論から言いますと、先ほど説明したようにがの役割が曖昧になってしまう場面を除いては基本的に何々が好きを使ってしまって問題ありません。無理して何々のことが好きを使う必要がないというのが私の意見です。なぜでしょうか。大きく理由は2つあります。まず1つ目はニュアンスの違いがそこまで大きくはないということです。あえてこの2つの違いを述べるとしたら何々のことが好きというのが相手の内面などを含めて総合的に好きみたいなニュアンスになります。つまりただ見た目が好きというだけではなくて性格だったり考え方とかそういったものも含めて好きみたいなイメージになるんですけれども、じゃあ何々が好きと言ったらそういったニュアンスは伝わらないのかっていうと伝わることも全然あるんですね。何々が好きって言ったら外見のことだけを見て好きという可能性もあるし、考え方や性格など内面が好きっていう可能性もある、幅広いニュアンスを伝えることができるんですね。なのでわざわざ何々のことが好きと言わなくてもいいかなというのが私の考えです。そして2つ目の理由が何々のことが好きは使える範囲が狭いということです。3年前の動画では人に対してしか使えないとお話ししましたが、実は人だったらどんな時でも使えるかというとそんなこともないんですね。先ほどお伝えしたように何々のことが好きのニュアンスは内面も含めて総合的に好きっていう感じでしたよね。つまり内面を知らない状況で言ってしまうとそれは違和感が出るということになります。例えば家族や仲のいい友達、同僚やクラスメイトとかであれば全く問題ないんですが、テレビでしか知らない芸能人、ネットでしか知らないモデルのことを好きという時にのことが好きっていうと、いやお前はその人のことほとんど知らないだろっていうふうになってしまうわけなんですね。ということで何々が好きと何々のことが好きの違いを整理するとこんな感じです。ニュアンス上の違いは何々のことが好きは内面など全てを理解した上で好きというニュアンスになるが、何々が好きでもその解釈ができるためニュアンスでの使い分けは不要。使える場所の違いについては何々のことが好きは深く理解している人間に対してしか使えず使用範囲が狭いため無理して何々のことが好きを使う必要はない。ただがを主体と好きの対象のどちらでも解釈できる場面においては後者であることを明示するために使うことが推奨される。今回は何々が好きと何々のことが好きについて3年前の動画からもう一歩踏み込んで解説してみました。他にも何か話してほしい内容があればぜひコメント欄で教えてください。それでは今回の内容は以上です。また次回お会いしましょう。